Hello fellow travelers! 4.1 update once again changed floors 11 and 12, and here I'm gonna explain what can help you get better results there. Floor 11 starts with the monolith chamber, so remember that you don't have to be fast, you just need to keep enemies busy fighting you instead of the monolith. Aside from a few crossbowmen, eremites in the first half fight in melee, which makes crowd control, like pulling abilities, freeze and taunts, extremely effective against them. You know, the usual suspects. And if you can't pull the crossbowman, remember that you can leave melee guys having fun with taunts while you deal with the ranged ones. New enemies here spawn one by one as soon as you kill someone, so mind your cooldowns to have something controlling enemies all the time and preserve monolith's health. Second half is even easier than the first one, because lava churls aggro on you right away, so just turn them around and don't fight close to the monolith. If you struggle with them, do your best to get rid of their shields ASAP. Against Geoshield, blunt damage is very effective, which is primarily claymores, plunging attacks and explosions. Likewise, Pyro, Cryo and Dendro are the best options against Electro shields, so including those can make the fights easier. Spectres in second chamber spawn very close to each other, so pulling abilities combined with EVs are very effective here. Try to rely primarily on Hydro, Animo or Geo damage, because these will work against all of the Spectres. In second half, once again we have to fight enemies one by one, so single target damage is still preferable here. All Ruin enemies have increased physical resistance, so stick to any elemental damage. If your damage is not very high, you might want to include an archer in your team to have an easy and reliable way to prevent Ruin Drake from absorbing your main element and increasing its resistance to it. Other than that, just stick to whatever you prefer. First half of the third chamber features Pyro and Electro enemies. Slimes shouldn't pose much of a threat as long as you don't rely primarily on their own elements. Get rid of Pyro Slimes first to prevent occasional overloads that will not only deal extra damage, but also knock your characters back if you don't have shields. However, the main concern here is Pyro shields, so having Hydro to counter them saves a lot of time. Seahorse also has Electro shield, but you can destroy it by swirling Pyro shields into it, so including counter for it is unnecessary. Same goes for Breacher's Dendro shields. Even though Electro is the best counter for them, you can simply burn them by using Animo to swirl Pyro from Abyss Mage. In second half we have two Phantasm mini-bosses. The one in front of you fights in melee, so if you go to the other one, they will stack together right away. This obviously increases your clearing speed, but it might be difficult to keep track of their moves and dodge all of their attacks, so having good shields or healing will be helpful here. Since Water Phantasms hard counter freeze teams, it's better to rely on Pyro or Dendro instead for huge reaction boost. In the end, for the first half, AoE focused team build around Hydro and Animo is the best option. It doesn't matter which of those you choose as your main damage type, so there's a lot of possible combinations you can go for. For the second half, on the contrary, single target damage is more preferable since we always fight one or two enemies at a time. Pyro or Dendro based teams will work great here. I opted to use Spread team that turns into Hyper Bloom in the last chamber, for example. Floor 12 opens up with a Seahorse. Against it, you should primarily focus on breaking the Electro Pearl on its chest. Pyro, Cryo and Dendro are the best options for it, and the main time save here is to break the Pearl before boss flies up and starts summoning lightning strikes on top of you, which is quite difficult. Going heavily on elemental application helps a lot here. The best team for the job depends mostly on characters you have, but Melt team is probably the best option. Although I gotta say that burning is actually quite helpful as well, since it deals damage to the Pearl. Note that boss leaves Electro Puddles with some of its attacks, and they can activate Dendro cores you generate, so breaking the Pearl is even more important if you want to use a Bloom team. In the second half we have Rift Hounds. As per usual, it's never a good fight when there are Rift Hounds involved. We have both Geo and Electro ones here, so countering both is not a viable option. Moreover, we'll have to deal with Pyro shields afterwards, so it's better to stick to any Hydro-based EV team you can make. Also consider bringing some healing to negate corrosion damage. Note that new Rift Hounds spawn one by one as soon as you kill the ones present, so focus on killing at least 3 whelps first to summon the second big Rift Hound as soon as possible to start working on it too. Once you are done with the Rift Hounds, stay away from all the mages to force them to teleport to you. Unfortunately, it seems random sometimes, but spots near the edge between any two mages work well. Most of the time. Second chamber starts with Bishop's duo. It's very easy to stagger them, so mainly just try to keep them on one side from you to not split them apart. Once you are done with those, focus on Suppression Specialist. It is ranged and is less durable than the other one. Construction Specialist though is very annoying, so it's worth bringing Wuxia characters to disable it, or at least a shield to have easier time against it. In second half we have Capellia's version of Icewind Suite. Just like in the previous Abyss, fight starts right from the climax. Unlike in Capellius' version, however, Capellia is more aggressive and also pushes you away with her attacks, so being able to fight her from the distance is even more beneficial this time. Capellia also gains extra resistance bonus in the beginning of each climax cycle, which you can remove with Numa characters, but it's better to stick to just a good team if you can't make a solid team around those. Last chamber is just straight up single target DPS check. There is not much to say about Mirror Maiden, just remember that she becomes more aggressive and can trap you in a cage after she hits you. She often teleports away from you, so do your best to lure her close to one of the spawns for the next wave in the process. As for Wind Operatives, remember that if you get hit by their big AoE, the character that got hit will suffer from corrosion until you manage to cleanse Life Bond effect from them. This effect is linked to a character, so it will keep damaging your inactive characters if you switch before you cleanse Life Bond. Moreover, the same operative's attack deals much more damage if it hits you again while Life Bond is active, so make sure to bring reliable source of healing to cleanse it ASAP in case you fail to dodge it. In second half we have a field generator boss that will immediately activate its low gravity field. It forces the boss to use much more powerful attacks which you can't avoid with dashes, but you can still use burst animations to avoid damage or actually jump over them if you have to. You can disable low gravity field with Numa characters, but it doesn't do much aside from enabling stronger attacks, so it's completely unnecessary if you can stay alive anyway. This time the entire floor 12 is just a DPS check all along. Melt team or any kind of Dendra-based team is a great option for the first half, and since we mostly need single target damage here, I used Hyperbloom to clear it. Second half, however, is problematic, but just because of the very first chamber. If you struggle with it, using specific teams for it might help. You'll have to use quite powerful AoE team to deal with the Rift Hounds, but you'll also need enough Hydro application to quickly break Abyss Mage's shields in order to clear it in time. But at least after that, the rest of Floor 12 is pretty straightforward. Anyway, that's all I have for you this time, fellow travelers. Good luck with your runs and have a great rest of your day.